Good afternoon. I'd like to open the city council meeting Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. If you'll stand with me, the mayor leads in the invocation and the pledge.
Please stand with me if you wish. Dear Lord, thank you once again for the city that we live in. We thank you for all you provide for us. We thank you for the safety that you brought us last week at the race. It's unfortunate that we had one individual that passed, and we ask you to watch over their family. We also ask you to watch over the Pyle family as Will has left this earth and gone to heaven. We ask that you watch over his wife and kids and the rest of the family and guide them through the rest of their life. We ask that you watch over our staff as they continue to keep the city in the great shape that it is. And lastly, I wish everybody a happy Resurrection Day. I'm praying your Easter will be bright with the hope of and joy of our risen Savior. He is risen, hoping your Easter is happy and blessed. We do all we do in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Kathy, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Shute.
Here.
Bishop.
Here.
Haver.
Here.
Mendel.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Carlisle.
Here. Okay, if there's anyone in the audience that's not on our agenda or anything with the agenda, if you will, there's some forms on the front table here. You fill them out, hand them to Clerk Haley, and she will get them to me. Mayor's report.
A few things. Last week was the biggest race attendance that they've had. It was a great event. Wayne Estes and his crew did a wonderful job. It was a whole week full of fun and enjoyment. It was really kind of exciting to see the community come out and really support the race. It keeps growing every year. They keep doing a good job, so we appreciate that. And unfortunately, there was one individual that did pass away. Not on the track, but in the paddock, or outside the paddock. But other than that, it was a good week of events. A few things that are coming up. We have a small business event on 329 from 4 to 8, I believe, off of North Commerce. We've got the Soda Fest on April 6th coming up, and Sipping on the Circle on the 20th. And of course, we have Easter coming at the end of it's an early Easter this year, so I hope you all enjoy. I do have one other item, a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I'd ask Ms. Gail Murley, who's representing the Children Advocacy Center, to just meet me at the podium, and I'll read the proclamation into the record. It's a long one, so hang in there. All right. Whereas Florida is committed to improving the lives of all Floridians and securing a better future for the citizens of the state. And whereas children who have adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, are at higher risk of short and long-term physical, psychological, and behavioral challenges that can impact the individual child and the greater community. And whereas parents and caregivers who have resources and support are better equipped to give their children safe and nurturing experiences. And whereas children have a better mental health and physical health and academic success when they are raised in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas the Florida Department of Children and Families has a vision for holistic services by integrating systems and services. And whereas the state of Florida has established Hope Florida, a pathway to prosperity, a personalized approach to helping families overcome barriers to self-sufficiency through community collaboration. And whereas Floridians can call 850-300-HOPE, HOPE, to speak with a care navigator for support to develop a plan to achieve economic self-sufficiency, referrals to local partners, and help identifying goals and barriers in their lives. And whereas during the month of April, Prevent Child Abuse Florida, in collaboration with the Governor's Office of Adoption and Child Protection, the Florida Department of Children and Families, and the Ounce of Prevention Fund of Florida implements Pinwheels for Prevention, a statewide coordinating campaign to raise awareness of child abuse prevention efforts by teaching about healthy child development and positive parenting practices. And and establishing Circle of Parents peer support groups. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month provides everyone a chance to learn how they can play a role in preventing abuse and neglecting, including adverse child experiences, ACEs. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month reminds Floridians of all ages that they can help children increase positive childhood experiences which lead to happier, healthier childhood. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, John Shute, Mayor of the City of Sebring, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Sebring, and extend my support to all observing April 24th as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Florida. So Gail,
Thank you.
I gotta thank you for all you do. Would you like to say anything?
No, that's
No?
okay.
Well, we
No.
appreciate what you do with the Advocacy Center and what
Yes,
they do and what
absolutely.
they've done for years. That's just a great thing that not a lot of cities have something like that.
That's very true. Man,
It's
thank
a-
you for
it's a-
acknowledging
it's a- I'm
us.
sure it's a challenge all the time, but it's well worth it. So thank you very much for what you do. So
Thank you.
that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Councilman's concern, comments, liaison reports. We'll start down there with Terry Medill.
Good afternoon. I had a wonderful time at the races. I really went there as a child with my parents to work and enjoy, and then, of course, as a teenager to get in as much trouble as I could down there and see all the interesting sights and the amazing people that came to Sebring. And so it was a joy to go back. I'd gone back a little bit, but I went to the Thursday night get-together. Was so lovely with all the race cars that were there in the building, and just had such a wonderful time, and it seemed so orderly. And I even watched an entire race, and I just had a great time. It was so wonderful. Another thing I wanted to say, we are so blessed here. I think the mayor touched on how our departments keep our city running. And I said when I got on city council that I took everything in this little town for granted. And I really, if I wanted water, I went and got it out of the faucet. I never thought, was it clean? I just knew the city was taking care of us. Garbage got picked up. But Sunday before last, we had an episode at our church where somehow the sewer lines got stopped up out in the street in our parking lot, and sewage was coming out. And we called the city. They came out immediately and fixed it, and then came back Monday. And I just wanted to give kudos to Bob Bogus. I don't know if he's here, but to our Public Works Department, Bob Bogus and Kim Shans and the whole group. They keep our city utilities running very well, and we really appreciate them. We're very blessed to have them. That's all I got.
Thank you. Harrison?
No report. Well, one thing. Rumor has it there's a birthday in the house today.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Paul Anderson. So he's.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how old he is, but I hope the 50th birthday that you had last year tops today. So happy birthday! Thank you for
Happy
everything that you
birthday.
do. Paul likes to be in the back, not getting recognized, and so this is probably uncomfortable for him. So we like making him a little uncomfortable. But thank you for everything that you do in the background, making sure our technology works. And I don't understand it, but you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday.
No.
Happy
Never.
birthday to you. That's enough.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my dad.
Okey dokey.
No report.
Mr. Stewart?
No report.
No report. I just want to say the event she was talking about, I'm going to put a little punch out there for the Hall of Fame. They're the ones that do that. So it was a gala at the races. It happens every year. They bring in antique race cars that have actually raced or won at Sebring. They're pretty unique to see and very expensive. And unlike Miss Mendel, I've been going out there since I was about 13, and I didn't get in any trouble.
Right.
I don't know if I believe that.
Thanks. Thank everybody for coming and those that are watching. I will accept a motion on the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. No one has any comment? Pull the board, Kathy.
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, there's no old business, so we'll move right along to the new business. 10A is the Sebring Small Business Organization Special Events. That's Chris and Robert Adams. You wanna tell us what you're up to?
Trouble? No. So Chris and I, we own the Sebring Soap Company, and so we, in January, we came up with this group, the Sebring Small Business Organization, and it's grown from 3 members now to over 20. And we wanted to put on an event like we usually do. Like the store will have like steel drums or Italian ice or something, just on a whim. And this event became an actual event, like really fast. So we have about 20 businesses, Sebring small businesses, that are participating. We're going to close down North Commerce Avenue from Circle Park Drive now to Pomegranate. And we're all going to set up, have a good time. We'll have WWOJ there for a live broadcast. Sweetwater Coffee, Jungle Bus, like a whole bunch of us just getting together. We're doing raffle prizes and grand prizes with a grill. It's going from 4 to 9 on March 29th. And so that's what we're putting together for you guys.
Good job.
Yeah, we're excited.
And thank you. We need all the people we can get downtown.
Yeah.
We want more people downtown. Like,
Well, and
that's what we're.
It's our goal to maybe even like have this a quarterly event in between the other festivals. So when there is a lull, then we can fill in the gaps when there is something. So
Great idea.
You know, I'm very happy you are getting a small business organization for Sebring. I understand there have been several in the past that have just kind of
We've heard, yeah.
fizzled out. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but I would love to come to one of your get-togethers
Okay.
to encourage and just learn about the small businesses.
Our next meeting is March 22nd at 8 a.m. at the Children's Museum.
this
8
Friday.
a.m.,
This
like
Friday.
right after the sun
Like
comes
right
up.
after.
We do-
Okay,
we-
what day was that, March?
Friday. Friday
This
the
Friday.
22nd
22nd, 8 a.m. And where was it?
at the Children's Museum.
Oh, Children's Museum.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We've outgrown our store. So
You've outgrown your store. That's a good thing.
So I have one question. Is this event like open to the public, or is this just a get together for?
Yeah, so it's open to the public. It's for the public to come and really meet the people that own the businesses, that run the
Okay.
businesses. Buy some things, have some fun. It's a family fun night, so every business is required to have a family fun activity. So the Children's Museum will be set up in the park, and they'll be doing large yard games. We're going to be doing build your own bath bombs. Sugar Blossom is doing cookie decorating. The Red Easel is doing rock painting, all Easter themed.
Oh, fun.
Sounds great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
I move to approve the event as presented, conditioned upon providing appropriate insurance, showing at least $1 million of liability, and naming the city as additional insured at least 10 days prior to the event.
Second.
I second it. Whoops. In a race for a second.
And that's already been purchased.
We do have it. We just forgot to bring it off to
We'll
you
give
guys.
Hannah a copy.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? Not there.
Thank you for that. I mean,
Yeah,
and you
thanks.
really want to do it quarterly? That would be
We'd like
great.
to.
That'd be very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good thing for the city.
Kathy? Please, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes, okay, item 10B, is a public hearing, and ordinance 1523, an applicant initiated a request to change the zoning classification from 3 properties located on 434 Fernley, 428 Palmetto Avenue, and 503 Rose Avenue, Sebring, from City Multiple Family District to Mixed Use Quantity Development District, MUQD, to the public or quasi-public. Mr. Swain.
Yes, sir. Proposed ordinance 1523 is entitled, "An applicant-initiated amendment to the official zoning map of the city of Sebring, specifically changing the zoning classification for 2 properties totaling approximately 3.92 acres and located at 434 Fernleaf Avenue and 428 Palmetto Avenue, Sebring, bearing their strap numbers from City Multiple Family District R3 and Mixed Use Quality Development District MUQD to public/quasi-public. The title mentioned that the 503 Rose Avenue is included. That one is not going to be included tonight.
Okay.
And we have
And I will
Marissa
explain that.
Barmby with us from Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
And your name?
Marissa Barnby with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
Okay, so you're replacing this Tourette.
Yes, she and I work together,
Yeah.
and I am here this evening.
Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Again, for the record, Marissa Barnby with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. This is an applicant-initiated request to amend zoning. Next slide. The original request, this is the Board of County Commissioners. So you can see the three red parcels, Fernleaf Avenue, Palmetto Avenue, and Rose Avenue. That was 4.12 acres in size. This did go, next slide, to the Planning and Zoning Board, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommended to forward approval of the rezoning of the Fernleaf Avenue property and the Palmetto Avenue property, but not the one on Rose Avenue, because the Rose Avenue one is currently vacant, and they wanted to know what would happen. This did come before the City Council for first reading, and an agreement or discussion between the applicant and the council also said to pull that piece out. It was advertised with all three pieces, since that's what the original application was. However, the rest of my presentation, the staff report, and the ordinance you are considering this evening, next slide, is for just the two pieces you can see in red there. So the zoning request is to go from multiple family R3 and mixed use quality development district to public quasi-public. Next slide. This slide shows your future land use. As you can see, these two parcels and everything surrounding it is in the downtown mixed use redevelopment future land use district. And when you look at the zoning, the one parcel has R3 multiple family, which is consistent with parcels directly adjacent to it. The other piece is mixed use quality development district. These parcels abut property that is in public that is also owned by the county. There are some various different properties out there that are owned by the county, but these are the only ones they are asking for change on right now. If this amendment to the zoning map does go through, this is what your zoning map would look like. It would assign the public quasi-public to these two parcels, which when you saw on the aerial, they both are developed currently with county-related infrastructure and buildings on them. You can see on that slide. Everything surrounding that area, so it's a very mixed area, so there's single-family, multi-family, county uses, municipal uses, some vacant land, a warehouse, as well as a private school. Slide. This is your aerial map. These were, just for your information, the sites with the asterisks on them were parcels that were also owned by the county. Next slide. So we did do a public facilities and service analysis. There is water and wastewater and solid waste in close proximity and available to service the developments as they exist today and potential future development on the site. If they want to expand uses, they would have to do an analysis at that time for future traffic impacts. This isn't residential, so public schools isn't actually a requirement related to this. And then there is adequate recreation and open space to address requirements for this property. This request is consistent with the future land use assigned to the property, and the proposed zoning supports the uses that are on the site today and what the county is anticipating using them continuing into the future. As I already mentioned, the Planning and Zoning Board did on February 13th recommend approval for the rezoning for the property at 434 Fernleaf Avenue and 428 Palmetto Avenue, and did recommend denial for the property of 503 Rose Avenue. And so tonight you're motion options would be for approval on second reading of this ordinance. Again, the ordinance has been updated to reflect just those two properties, consistent with Planning and Zoning Board recommendation and the discussion at first reading.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public have any comments? Councilman? Thank you very much. Adjourn the public hearing. Accept a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 1523 on second and final reading.
Second.
A motion and a second by Mr. Stewart. Mr. Moore, go ahead.
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, 10C is a public hearing and ordinance 1521. I'm going to pass this on to Mr. Swain.
This is a proposed ordinance to vacate a portion of Palmetto Avenue near the property that was just discussed for the rezoning. The title of that ordinance that was adopted on first reading back in December is entitled an ordinance vacating that portion of Palmetto Avenue adjacent to Block 67 and Block 71 of the subdivision for George E. Sebring Company, all lying in Section 29, Township 34 South, Range 29 East, Highlands County, Florida, and establishing an effective date. And at the applicant's request, they would ask you to please continue tonight's public hearing to May 7th.
We need a motion?
Yes, sir. Please.
We need a motion.
I move to table the ordinance and public hearing reading of 1521 to April 7th?
May.
Oh, May 7th, sorry.
Second.
We got a motion and a second.
Who's second?
Harrison?
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, moving right on to 10D. This is a V-24-01 appeal of Planning and Zoning Board denial of variance request. An applicant initiated a request to appeal the Planning and Zoning Board denied of a variance request. The applicant is requesting a 2-foot 1-inch variance from the required 7-foot 5-foot side yard setback to keep a existing shed where it is located adjacent to the front of the house and the side yard at 3061 Lakeview Drive, parcel number S2434280006000000. Mr. Swain?
Well, the applicant applied for a variance to allow a shed closer than the side setback would allow. That request was denied, and as they are permitted, they have appealed that decision to City Council for Council's decision one way or another on whether they can keep the shed that is located too close to the side lot line.
I have a presentation if it would please you to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. For the record, Marissa Barnby with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. The applicants are in attendance today and will be happy to answer any questions you have beyond what I can present. So this is the location of the property. It is on Lakeview Drive, shown on red here. It is about 0.31 acres in size. As you can see, it obviously abuts right up to Lake Jackson. Next slide. So the variance request was a 2-foot 1-inch variance from the required 7.5-foot setback for a shed that they installed on the site that went a little too far into the side setback. The Planning and Zoning Board did meet on February 3rd, and they voted to deny the variance request. And the applicant submitted a letter to the city on February 21st requesting an appeal to the determination. Staff met with them and asked them to provide backup support materials related to that appeal. And so I will go through some of what they provided, as well as the analysis we provided to the Planning and Zoning Board. So again, the variance is for a side setback for a shed that was constructed partially within the side setback. Next slide. The future land use on this property, as well as the adjacent properties, is medium density residential. and the zoning is R1A, single family. So the 118 square foot shed is 10 by 18 feet. It is built directly next to the house. A permit was not required because the shed is under the 200 square foot requirement. The R1A zoning district does require a 7.5 foot side yard setback. And when you look at the survey, which you'll see on the next slide, the shed is located 6 feet from the property line, so 1.5 feet inside that, in one part of the shed, and the other part is 5.4 inches, so 2.1 feet from the setback, which is why they're asking for a variance of 2.1 feet. The owner said this was the only place they could put the shed due to restrictions of side yards and getting the shed located. This is an aerial image, so you can see the house is very close. The sideline on the northern side actually dips in. That's how the lot was created, but it has that dip at that part as well. Next slide. This is the boundary survey. The red box on there shows the location of the shed with the portions that are distance from the side yard line. And this is a photo taken of the site. You can see the shed there. It is placed on ground level. My understanding is they had the shed company kind of dig a hole so that the shed would look like it's ground level even with the house instead of up on risers. It is tucked in as much as it can be under the eave. But that's what that shed looks like at this point. So there are variance evaluation requirements in the code, and this is, next slide, talks about the special conditions and circumstances and all those 5 conditions that you have to meet. For findings for consideration, the shed does meet all the other requirements pertaining to accessory structures in terms of the amounts you can have, the size, and all of that. It's just the fact of its location partially into the side setback. That is the issue with it. And again, as I said, the shed was constructed without a permit, but that is consistent with Florida building code requirements. So the applicant did supply support materials. One of their statements is that, the setback that remains, which would be 5 foot 4 inches, would not affect anyone else's property lines. Essentially it's large enough to get a lawnmower through and that stuff still on their property without having to cross over in their neighbor's lines. The current placement provides the least encroachment into the side setback, as you saw from the picture, and they went back and met with the shed company. That shed is tucked in as far as it possibly can be next to the house. They did look, and there is no access on either side of the house to move the shed. The shed company requires 11 feet of clearance in order to get the shed through. On the one side, on the south side, there's only 10 feet 2 inches due to the roof angle of the neighbor's roof. And then on the south side, there's only 9 feet ½ inch due to the trees. So even with the fence being taken down, there's just not the clearance available for the shed company to squeeze the shed through the side. The applicant also met with the crane company to say, can we lift it up and over the house and take it back that way? The crane said due to the weight and size of it and how far back they would have to lift it back there's not a crane available that could do that. They also looked into seeing if they could have the shed floated on a pontoon boat to the property and lift it that way, but they can't get a crane into the backyard to then lift it off the boat to bring it into their backyard. One of their arguments is that there are residents in the area with other sheds, and due to the unique size requirement or restrictions of the side requirements and things like that, they would not be able to experience the same opportunities for storage, etc., that other people in the zoning district enjoy. and that the shed is placed in the most appropriate place given the restrictions of the property, and that this is the minimum needed requested variance. I have some photos. That one turned on me. I'm not sure what happened there. But so you could see the measurement of how the width to get that through there. These look better on my computer, I apologize. But these are in your packet as well for you to see. Next slide, that's the south side. This is the north side. Yeah, I'm not sure what went there, but I swear these were all the right direction in my PowerPoint and my computer, my apologies. But so you can again kind of see the side there and the width. One of these shows you can see the back of the shed with, oh, that's this one here. So you can see this northern one, you can see the back of the shed sticks out just a little further than what the air conditioning unit is that exists on that side. Next slide. They did provide as part of their application or their appeal application package, the letters from the crane company and the shed and gazebo company saying that they cannot relocate it to the backyard. Next slide. Again, this is just a summary side of what the variance request is, the denial, and that they did apply for an appeal. I believe the city received an email from the neighbor. Okay, so there was an email from the neighbor being opposed to this being granted, but I don't have a copy to read into the record with me. I'm happy to stand for any questions. As I mentioned, the applicant is here as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm puzzled since that property is good. Normally, I try to go out of my way to help the homeowner in cases like this, but I'm surprised that Mr. Stearns would go to all this trouble since the property is going to be for sale. So I'm surprised he's going to all this trouble since it's been denied. The neighbors don't like it. So I was wondering why that would be, why he would go to all that trouble when he's going to be selling the property.
I'll let him address that.
Good evening. Laney Stearns for the record, 3061 Lakeview Drive. To address the sale of the property property's been for sale for 3 or 4 months. We don't know if it's going to sell. We're not going to sell if we don't get our price, and we're living there. So if it doesn't sell, we're staying, and that answers that question, because I don't know if it's going to sell or how long it's going to take. But we put it in before we thought we were going to sell. So my employment situation changed, and this shed was already there by that time. So it's going to cost me $2,000 to take it out. As if it can't stay, it can't go in the backyard, it can't go in the side yard because the setbacks are too tight. So we've done everything we can and tried to address every issue that we had. I did read the neighbor's letter, and what I'd like to do is give you a couple pictures to go by, if I could.
These all the same, or you got different?
Oh, they're all the same.
Okay.
Two for everybody. So the first picture is the overview up top, and that shows what it looks like today. And so when you talk about the view from the neighbor's house, you can see the neighbor's windows out towards the street, and it doesn't block view. But then you look at the second picture, which before the shed was put in place, and there was 12 feet of bushes and a fence. So in fact, the neighbor complained to us when I started taking care of the shrubbery that they didn't like it, that people would drive to their house and couldn't find their house and would drive by and have to turn around and come back. And I didn't like the height of them either, so we cut them down to something smaller. So he has more view today than he had before we put the shed in. And the shed, just to clarify a fact, the shed people didn't dig the hole. I did, by hand. And then my neighbor helped me dig the rest of the hole, and we had the skid side skid in to help do the front yard and get it level. He actually helped me dig that hole. So I was kind of confused when he complained about the shed being there because nobody ever said anything to me. Or I would have bought a shed that would have met the problem. I didn't know they were going to be the setback anyway, but I would have bought a smaller one. I went back to the shed company and said, okay, I've had it for 3 months. Will you take it back and sell me a thinner one? And they said, yeah, we'll give you 10% back. Wow. So 10% of a $6,000 shed doesn't get me done. And we did everything. If the neighbor's roof projects into that's that 10-foot 1-inch line. That's where he met his property requirements and I met mine, I guess, when they built the houses. But it doesn't allow me to scoot the shed through. I had her come out 3 times and measure and look and do all that stuff, and there's just no way. There's no
And
way to
you're
put it back.
using that shed for storage?
Yep, it's full right now. And the reason we put it down underground, because we wanted it to be pleasant to the eye, instead of being up off the ground 2 feet and have a ramp and a bunch of skirting around it. We wanted to be down underground so it would look good with property. We did everything we could to make it look like the property and everything we could to make it look good to the neighborhood.
And do you have any idea why the Planning and Zoning Board denied the variance request?
Well, those 5 A, B, C, D things that we had, we met with Mr. Toller and we tried to get the answers that were appropriate to that, but we really didn't understand it as well as we did when it was explained to us by the after the last meeting of Planning and Zoning. So we got more detail of what we needed, and then we were able to go back and get letters from the shed company and from the crane company. So we'd have those in the package, so you all would understand that there's just no way to put it anywhere else on the property. And if we don't get the approval from you, then I have to spend $2,000 to have it taken out, and we don't have storage like every other resident would be allowed to have.
So, Terry, I was at that planning and zoning meeting,
Right.
and one of the things, if you look on the end of our packet here on this, it talks about conditions that would be different about this property than others. And one of the things that they mentioned that I agree with is there are many houses in the same scenario right along that run of Lakeview that are built kind of right up close to the side setbacks where they don't have room to put a shed either. And an issue I have with it is if we grant this variance, then there's a bunch of properties right there that could argue they need the same thing. And I think there are, and I'm sorry that you've spent the money,
That's okay.
you know, and the issues you're having on this, but I think that there are other ways to achieve storage without having to grant a variance. And, you know, you don't have to do a pre-built shed. You can build something else. You can build an addition on the house. You can build stuff in the backyard. But I would have an issue doing this because I think we're going to set a precedent, and you know we're going to deal with 10 more of these, and then because this is the cheapest solution probably to all of those would be a pre-built shed there. But I don't think it's the right one for granting a variance for those reasons. That's my opinion.
Anybody else have comments?
No, I agree with Josh. So there's nothing saying that you can't get a smaller shed in the backyard.
No, they can't put anything in the backyard.
No,
You could build on site.
Yeah, I could, but
Yeah.
there again, you're spending a lot more money to do that.
Right.
We already have that money out invested. And that's why we asked for the variance. That's the process we have in the city, is to go to variance so you guys can approve variances and allow people to have certain things when they're restricted. That's my understanding of the variance, so that's what we're looking for.
It is
Is your way to do that.
that this variances are to address special conditions and circumstances. The challenge is that one of the requirements is the condition that creates the problem can't be the result of the applicant or their predecessor. In this case, the problem is the building is too wide relative to the side lot lines, and that was done not by you, of course, but by whomever built it that way and
Right.
built it out to the side. So that's one of the reasons, one of the sort of prohibitions on giving a variance is if you kind of created the problem that is now an issue.
And the other
Or
thing.
someone prior to you did.
Sorry. The other thing I wanted to tell you is, if the view of the shed is a problem, we'll go ahead and put the shrubbery and the fence screening back up so he doesn't have to see it. And that way we'll put it all back the way it was, and the shed won't be seen by anybody.
My issue isn't the view at all. It's just that
I know, he mentioned it in his letter, so I just wanted to address it, that we'd be willing to do whatever it takes to screen it from his view, so he wouldn't have to deal with it.
This isn't, in my tenure, this is not the first time that this has been requested, and I don't recall any time that we've made an exception, and I don't think that we should do anything different here. It's just gonna open us up for just people wanting sheds on every lot, so.
I have one more question. Was this shed, did you bring this shed in?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
wasn't there when you
No,
bought the property?
no. No.
Might have been a good idea to get the variance first.
Yeah, we didn't know we were that close. Until they actually get, you don't know till they bring the shed in and put it down, and they go, okay, that's as far as we can go. So you don't really know. You think you're right. In fact, they came out while I was digging the hole and said, okay, you've got to dig this much more out, dig that much more out. You got to put a slant in here. You got to put a slant over there. You don't know until they actually bring the shed out and put it in the ground or on the ground where you are, because they thought and I thought we were fine until they actually set it down and we went like, okay, because it didn't get all the way up against the building like we thought they'd be able to do. So, thank you.
Any more comments? Yes, sir. You have to come up here. We have to know who you are.
Everybody knows. Mark Wilson, Planning and Zoning. We denied this exactly for what Josh said. It's going to start a precedent, and he should have did the due diligence before he applied for it. Sorry that it's happening that way, but we can't set a precedent. We'll have the whole Lakeview putting sheds up in the front of their homes, so that's it. Sorry, but can't do
Yeah,
it.
thanks, appreciate it. That's what we have rules for, I guess. Any more comments? Close the public hearing, and whatever council deems appropriate, so we need a motion.
I move to deny the appeal V2401 for the variance.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other comments? Kathy?
Bishop,
Yes.
Haywood,
Yes.
Mendel.
Now, how is this worded?
You're
Okay,
voting
I'm saying.
yes to deny the variance.
Okay, yes.
or-
You're denying the variance?
Yes.
Okay. Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, move along to 10E. This is another variance request of V2402, appeal of Planning and Zoning Board denial of variance request. Applicant initiated request to appeal the Planning and Zoning Board denied of variance requested. The applicant is requesting a variance to the city's requirements that is necessary structure are limited to no greater than 60% gross floor area of a principal structure on the property. The applicant is requesting a additional accessory structure of 330 square feet carport at 1419 Sunkist Avenue, parcel S 33 34 29 10015 400220. This is a carport exceeding the 60% requirement. Or, yeah, Mr. Swain?
I think you have adequately described it. We'll, if it's
Okay.
okay with you, we'll let Marissa Barmby take it from here.
You got
Thank
it.
you. For the record, Marissa Barmby with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. This is a variance request, sorry, go ahead, at 1419 Sunkist Avenue. The site is a little over half an acre in size. You can see it in the red. They did request a variance to the 60% of the gross floor area of the principal use requirement, which is one of the requirements to get an accessory structure at this time, because they wanted to be able to put a 330 square foot carport in the rear yard. The Planning and Zoning Board did vote to deny this, and next slide. So on February 21st, the applicant submitted a request for an appeal. Staff met with the applicant. We went through those 5 conditions in depth. The applicant said, I don't see how I will ever be able to get those check boxes checked. And so looking at the The applicant then did say they would like to, if you're not going to grant the variance, if you, have the city consider looking at possibly amending the land development code requirements relating to, that 60% requirement. And the reasoning for that, I'll go through as I go through my presentation. So this is the future land use. You can see the property has residential medium, similar to some of the surrounding ones. They also abut next to commercial. And then zoning, similarly, they are R2 and they do abut next to C1 as well. This is the aerial of the property, so you can see the house, you can see the existing structure they have on site. Section 26.222 of the code does say you cannot have more than 60% of the gross floor area of your house. So if you have a tiny little house, you only get a tiny little amount of square footage, regardless of how big your piece of property is. So, some fun math part now. They are wanting, essentially the variance would go from 60% to 76.5% because the house is 1,530 square feet, 60% would be 918 square feet. That is the total they are allowed on their site today. The accessory structure on the site today is 840 square feet, which leaves them with 78 square feet allowable accessory structure usage. The carport is 330 square feet, so if you take the 78 they're allowed, that gets them 252 square feet over the amount they would have. This is where they wanted to put their additional carports to provide protection and screening for the vehicle they want to store on the site. This is the proposed carport, 12 feet wide, 31 feet long, and you can see the images there. And then again, we've got those 5 conditions that are the requirements you have to look at with your evaluation appraisal report. Sorry. Variance. Anyway, so the requested carport meets all the other requirements related to accessory structures, some of which include they have to be on the same lots, they have to be incidental and in coordination with the principal structure, they cannot exceed the total buildable area within the required setbacks, and they have to meet impervious surface and open space requirements for their zoning district, and they cannot be more than 30% of the rear yard of the site. So while we have this condition, which is the variance, they were asking for the 60% requirement. We do also have in the code a requirement based on your lot size that helps rule what this is. So one of the findings of consideration is if they had a larger house on the site, they would be able to get a larger structure, obviously. Looking at the required setback requirements, the required setback would be you could get a 13,500 square foot house within the required setbacks, potentially, and 60% would be almost a little over 8,000 square feet of accessory structures. I did that math just to show, again, the bigger your house is, the more accessory structures you're allowed, based on that. To get the 1,170 square feet of accessory, they would have to add 420 square feet house to their square feet of house to their existing home. So as I mentioned, the applicant recognizes it is going to be very difficult to be able to show that they meet those requirements for a variance. What they are then requesting is the council to direct staff to look at potential language options to address this 60% requirement to allow for the parity for other small houses, especially small houses on larger lots. Brief looking at some other codes do similar things where they say 60% or 1,200 square feet, so that you can get a little bit more if you're a smaller house, but you're not ending up with a whole backyard of accessory structures. So again, what they said is a code revision would afford homeowners ability to expand on larger property without solely relying on the size of the residence. So they are just looking for an opportunity, recognizing they have a half acre in size, and they can get the same, they're looking for that as an option. Next slide. So again, that is the property there. They did originally request an appeal, but after meeting with staff and going through those conditions in depth, they are looking more for requesting the council to consider having staff look at options related to accessory structures, to potentially allow for a options for more accessory structures if you're on a bigger lot or related to house size or something along those lines.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The definition of accessory structure, if the same carport in theory were attached to the home, in Met Florida Building Code, would it still be considered an accessory structure?
No.
So that would be a remedy for this specific thing. If they were able to locate it where it could be attached to the home, they could do it.
Yes, they could in theory do that. I mean, obviously, as I pointed out, they
Right.
could also put an addition to the house and then,
Sure.
there you go. But part of why I kind of did that math about, double the house size, now you get so much more out there is, now you end up, does that necessarily logical a way to come up with how much you get there, especially since you do have these additional requirements of no more than 30% of your rear yard. So then if you're a smaller lot, if you have a 1,200 square feet, it's just a number I'm throwing out there, well then as long as it's 1,200 square feet and you're not going over that 30%, you get to do that. So that would then put more allocation into not only the size of the house, the size of the yard, but not penalizing people who have smaller homes.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you come up so we could ask a question?
Hi, my name's Sherry Miller. I'm 1419 Suncoast Avenue.
Is there a reason you can't attach it to your home?
So with the existing structure, you can't see it very well in this. At the very back of the house, you'll see the lanai. Just outside of the lanai is a pool, not a pool pump, but it's a heat pump for the pool. So there's already structures there that would prohibit putting it on that end of the house. On the other end of the house, I have no room because I've met my variant, my setbacks there. So when we looked at putting in the carport, which was going to be a storage area for a boat to cover it from the elements, the most likely place to put it would have been back at the back of the yard, next to an existing 28 by 30 storage building. That's what our original proposal was. But I have a smaller home, but yet I have a half acre, so I'm really not able to utilize all of the land that I have because I have too small of a house. I suppose that's a hard thing for people who are looking to future retirement and don't need a huge house. But yeah, so that's my situation there. So I'm looking to, can there be some wording, a workaround with the codes that say, okay, we realize there are some people, most of the homes in my neighborhood are smaller homes. Also, most of the homes in my neighborhood are also sitting on a quarter-acre lot. So I've got a rare situation in that I have a half acre there, and I can't really utilize any more of the land than I currently have.
So I guess what you're kind of asking for is if we could change the criteria of that. Would it be possible, and Greg, if you have input on this, I'd like to hear it, to change it to a percentage of the home footprint or the lot footprint, whichever is bigger, with some stipulations?
If I may answer that, I think that is something we would want to research for you.
Right.
I think that is something that we want to look at because the fact that so much of it hinges on the side of your house.
Right. Well, because you
there
could,
are
you have a
also-
small house on 5 acres and still.
Well, yes, absolutely. And there are provisions for placement of accessory structures when you're over 2 acres in size, but you're still tied to that 60% requirement. So you get kind of that same scenario. I'm on a really large piece of property and I still only get the 60% of my house.
Okay.
Let's hear what our building
Yes,
official has to
please.
say.
Good evening, Greg Griffin, building official. So, very slippery slope there, not in this case, because they're wanting to, I'm assuming this is an open shed? Right. The problem that we're seeing more and more of is people want to do these accessory structures, and even though it's single family, they want to convert it into a rental apartment because the rental market is so hot right now. So this is a separate case, but we need to be very careful how we move forward with allowing excess square footage beyond that 60%, because there is a big push. I mean, we turn away 2, 3, 4 people a week who are coming in to build their accessory guest dwelling unit, with full kitchen and everything else, so that they now have a rental property adjoining their portion. In terms of changing or modifying code for this, I think a variance would be the appropriate route if you can move forward with that, because it's a one-time thing, and each person who comes forward has to expend. The vast majority of people who come through in this situation do connect to the house, as you suggested. That's what we recommend 100% of the time. If there's genuinely no path forward, that's what the variance is for ultimately. I don't know what, you said you have a heat pump or stuff like that. I don't know what the particular layout is. I haven't looked at it.
It's a gable on 2 sides. So it's the left side of your home is where the heat pump is if you're facing it. And the right gable is too close to the setback lines.
Yes, I mean.
And, yeah, okay.
You create a breezeway and connect somehow. That's the path that we like, because that takes that 60% equation completely, it takes that completely out of the equation. I'm very cautious about treading into changing code or making any of those changes, because as the city continues to boom and we have a lot of those smaller homes, again, in her case, she's on a half-acre lot, but in the vast majority of cases, it's a quarter-acre lot. People will literally build fence to fence within their setbacks and fill it up with as much property as they can. So,
Thanks, Greg. Would you like to come up and talk to us about this? The plan's only, yeah, Greg. Mark.
You gave the exact same scenario to add it to the house. That's the only way to get around the 60%
of the main structure. To do that, it's going to be costly because they've already ordered it. It's 8 feet tall, 8 feet high, something like that.
And we're actually looking to modify the height so that it'll be a 10-foot building. It's actually taller than that currently.
Yeah. Once again, it doesn't meet the criteria for a variance. It doesn't meet the criteria for planning and zoning to do anything about it, because it does, it's greater than the 60% of your main house. We did ask that you put it on the side, which you wouldn't have any problem, the same as what building and Josh has said also, but it's a problem. I doubt the city's gonna change the code for you, or anyone, but I suggest you put it on the side of the house.
Okay. So if I may reapproach this?
Sure.
So that I have a better understanding?
You have to put it on the garage side, obviously.
Okay, so my takeaway from this is, my understanding is that if I were, even though it's not per se attached to the home, if I were to connect this carport, which actually is workable for us because of the existing openings to the fence and an existing second driveway into the property. So what I hear you saying is that if we look to put that carport in and then attach it to the home, it would be considered an extension of the home via that breezeway.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What you need to do is get with the building department.
Okay, so
And a contractor.
I know,
Yeah,
I
talk-
probably got a few more visits with the building department, so
Yeah,
they would
you
be
need-
able
You need to
to,
talk to Greg,
okay.
and from what I understand, what he was just saying is if you relocate it somewhere else, is that right, Greg, that you don't even have to do this? Is that right?
If he attaches it to the house.
It has to be attached by a roof.
Okay.
Right.
I thought he said if he moved it elsewhere.
Well, it was in the backyard, and he said move it next to the house.
Okay.
It's not currently up. The building is not currently up. This is a future construction, and so we were seeking approval of a variance before we moved forward with this. And so I was unable to attend the original board meeting, and so I did not have the understanding that we could look at potentially a breezeway that would kind of extend the structure of the existing home.
Well, he's the fellow you need to really sit down and talk to.
Okay.
The breezeway is doable. One thing I want to be clear, mainly for everyone else that's here, is that this 60% is cumulative. So any other structures, and this is another thing that we run into, people put 6 sheds on a piece of property, and they just keep adding. So I want to make sure that we do maintain the integrity of that in the agreement. With regards to the structure, again, so long as you can meet your rear and side setbacks, connection, as long as there's a physical connection, a reasonable physical connection in this sense of breezeway, we'll gladly consider it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So, close the hearing, and whatever the council deems appropriate, but I'm pretty sure that, yeah, we don't do any action because she can talk to Greg and work this out without us.
You can simply take no action on it.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll do no action. Okay, we have 10F, appeal of certificate of
Appropriateness.
appropriate for 201 Circle Park Drive. At their March 14th, 2024 meeting, the Historical Preservation Commission did not approve the attached certificate of appropriation, how do you say that word, for 201 Circle Park Drive. The request was to paint the original brick exterior of the building. The concern expressed by some of the HPC members was the painting the exterior brick facade did not maintain the original historical preservation facade. Mr. Salazar and Ms. Moisture will be present to present their appeal of decisions of the historical preservation. Yes, ma'am, and yes, sir.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Shannon Moisner. I'm the owner of Signature Floors in Peru Fresh in the J.B. Brown building right there in downtown Sebring on the Circle. This is my husband, Jerson Salazar. So we met with the HPC board last week in regards to painting the J.B. Brown building in painting it in connection with the show that's in town. They proposed us with this, and prior to this, it's a 101-year-old building, 1922. So we've had, we've experienced leakage in the building when it rains and moisture and like a musty smell and whatnot. I mean, it's a 101-year-old building. So we have thought when we purchased it to, seal it whenever we, had the available funds or whatnot. But then this came upon us. So here we are today, getting an opportunity to preserve the building with painting it and sealing it. The show plans on sealing it with Sealcrete and then 2 coats of paint on the whole building, front, back, and side. It's a pretty large building, so for us to do this, it would cost a lot, something that we just don't have the funds to anytime soon to do. So our hopes is to preserve the building at all cost, and then plus we have this amazing opportunity within our community.
Yes, just wanted to say that I'm actually a member of the Historic Society. I'm very supportive in conserving and preserving beautiful places like this or anywhere in the country or the world. That's one of the reasons I joined them. But there's certain times that we need to make some decisions to move forward. And I think right now the city of Sebring is also experiencing a historic moment by the show being in town. most of the buildings are painted. We will be the only building that won't be touched or will do. It will just look a little odd. We have met with the designers from the show. We have met with the painter. We have met with some contractors that guide us through this scene. There is some structures that are a little crack on the building because it's so old. When it rains, you can see that some areas are more porous than other ones, so you can see where it keeps getting it's wet in certain areas than other ones. It really needs some updating, and it needs to be preserved. One of the challenges that we have as a young couple in this entrepreneur scenario that we have, we love the city, we love everything about this town, but it's the funds. We don't have that kind of funds to be able to do this massive improvement to the building. If it wasn't for the show, we wouldn't be able to do it. There's a lot of things that the show is doing. They're changing the glass trims, and they're willing to paint it. And I don't want to say that this is just an opportunity for us to take advantage of the show, but I think it's an opportunity for the whole city of Sebring to take advantage of what's going on with the show. We don't have the funds. We really want to do this. And again, I understand why we got denied by the HPC, because that's what they're supposed to do, preserve. I will be disappointed if they're approved. That's what they do. But at times like this, we are creating history with the show. You guys being here, doing what you guys do every time, we are being part of history. And I believe this is an excellent opportunity to take advantage, the whole city, to make the town more beautiful, to get, since the show's been here, we've been seeing a lot of more traffic. There's a lot more businesses. I was telling my wife earlier, I see a lot of people looking better. A lot of people are dressing up on the streets. So there is some impact.
Well, that's a good thing.
There is an impact that is going on. There's a lot more to it. We have people tell us, we flew in just to see what's going on, flying in just to see what's going on. And we are already we're already starting to see some changes and some improvements. I'm praying to God that in the next couple of years, in the next few years, I think we're going to see a bigger impact of what's going on right now. And I think you guys are going to be part of that history as well. I was talking to Ms. Mandel earlier. I think we agree on leaving this in the hands of God, and I think you guys are wise enough to make the right decision on this subject. Thank you.
What color were you?
So part of the show is, the whole surprise thing. So we really haven't seen the color, but I know it's in like pastel blues.
It's with the colors of the historic.
And I'm sure that if you guys wanted to see, I want to say that I don't know if anyone's seen it, but they said that they would be able to show to city officials.
It's in the approved historic color palette.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, I was just curious if somebody's having heartburn over the color.
No, yeah. So
Okay.
we're putting our trust
But,
in them too.
Josh, you're a contractor. Is there an issue with painting?
No, I would have no issue with this at all. To fix the leakage issues of brick without painting are
Well, they were-
tremendously more expensive.
So they were
And-
talking about sealing it first.
Yeah, that's a prep.
That's a prep painting. You
Right.
seal
Okay.
stucco with that sealcrete, raw stucco and raw brick.
Right,
So,
okay.
And that's something you seal with.
I don't have a problem with this
It helps
at
to
all.
paint it here
Yeah.
too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, I did try to do a little research in that because I had heard it was not a good idea to paint over brick. And I love the historical part of it too, and I would like to preserve the brick, but I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and it's a great deal of money to try to seal this and paint it properly. I did a little research, and I did meet with them today and their painter and Amelia from the show, and they were telling me that, and I have this I can pass down about the sealcrete, but it does a lot to strengthen the mortar joints also. And it's a latex paint that allows the brick to breathe. I didn't know brick had to breathe, but it doesn't just seal it up tight and cause breakdown of the integrity of the brick, which I've learned a lot more about brick and painting than I realized there was to learn. But if you're going to have it be preserved for posterity, I think that this is an opportunity. I'm not against it. I think it's a good idea. And we know that the HGTV folks are going to do an excellent job with making it all look good. And so I think it's a great idea. And the people that I've been dealing with at the program, the production group, they have been so cooperative and just wonderful folks and wanting to keep our city happy and the business owners happy, and we really appreciate that. So my vote would be for this,
Well,
yes.
This is not, there's other buildings that's already been painted
Yeah.
down there, so it's not going against what's already happened either, so I don't have a problem with it. Is there any comments from the audience? Yes, well, you need to come up and tell us who you are again. We forgot.
This is as a citizen. Mark Wilson, 883 South Eucalyptus. The building, is it state certified as a historical place?
It's on the National Registry.
It is on the national. Are you going to lose that by covering the brick? Have you researched that?
We've done some research, but we don't know that.
You probably are, because you can't change the exterior. My house was built in 1925, and if I change the exterior, I'll lose the historical label. And I can do anything I want inside or windows, but changing the structure outside, covering the brick, I'll lose my designation. Excuse me. But you might want to check into that before you do it. Because there's funding for that too.
Right.
Mark, I think you're not altering the building, which they're not doing, and that's the biggest part of that. It's not so much
covering the
changing
brick.
Well, they're painting the brick, but it's remaining a brick building. They're not stuccoing the brick. I think if you stucco the brick and alter the outside on that, I was on the original HPC years ago when we actually started it here, and that was one of the concerns. Some of that stuff that we had, it was altering the outside of the building, changing its look, basically. Outside of, you're not changing the brick, you're
They're
preserving
covering
the
it with
brick.
the stucco, and then they're going to paint it.
They're not stuccoing it.
They're not stuccoing.
They're sealing it.
Yeah,
So it's not changing the structure itself.
painting the brick.
It still look like brick, it'd just be
right
blue,
Yeah.
possibly.
Instead of that gold.
Bluish. We'll say
Okay, well,
bluish.
good luck.
And they're having a leakage problem here too
Right.
that
Dan,
needs to be corrected.
Did you want to say something?
Dan Andrews, board member for the Historic Preservation Board. Just to bring to light some of the conversation we had was, in reference to what he was saying, they aren't talking about stuccoing the exterior of the building, they're talking about painting the existing structure, so it'll still appear as if it's brick. Yes, that puts their national registry at risk. We would have to get an opinion. I think the consensus that they had was that they'd rather have the building sealed and maintained for longevity than have a plaque on the wall and meeting that criteria if that did put it in jeopardy. I don't mean to speak on your behalf, but that was part of the discussion. I did make the motion for approval because I felt like it wasn't changing the architecture or the aesthetic of the building by painting the virgin brick. In essence, it was making sure that will stay in perpetuity. Obviously, they'll have to maintain it with paint, but it'll seal the structure and allow it to live on. It didn't sound like they would have the means to go through a very costly process of having the building repointed. And while you can do that in sections, it's very, very costly. We've experienced that here at the city when we restored the fire department years ago. And because of the grant funding that we had for the fire department, we were required to repoint the building. And John, you may remember, I don't remember how much it was, but it was significantly more than any other avenue. So it's really difficult for a private building owner to go through that process. The other thing I'd like to say, and I think Leonard mentioned it, there's a lot of projects that have already happened in this city, and I hate to penalize Jerson and Shannon, and I hate to penalize the Sebring Chamber of Commerce for going through the right processes. All of those other buildings that have been painted and balconies taken down should have come before the Historic Preservation Board for certificate of appropriateness, but we looked the other way because of HGTV, and then the two property owners that really are going about it the right way, we seem to be penalizing them. So it just seems a little unfair, but back to my point, it's going to stay brick, it's going to stay looking like brick, it's just going to be a painted, and it meets the palette that the Historic Preservation Board has out there. So,
Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
Appreciate
And my
it.
comments are related to the chamber
Them
building too.
Okay, well, they're up next. Okay, well, all we need is what the council wants to do, so we need a motion.
What does this motion need to say? Are we approving the appeal of the certificate of appropriateness?
Yes,
Yes.
it would
Okay.
essentially be granting the certificate of appropriateness.
All right, I move that we grant the certificate of appropriateness for 201 Circle Park Drive.
I second it.
Okay, is there any comments? Nope. Kathy?
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendo.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Well, 10G, thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
10 Drury Smith, we're looking at the same exact thing.
Yes.
So, I guess with all of what has been said, I will turn it over to council. Is there anything anybody wants to
I
add?
have one thing I want to say, and it's that I vote that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for 202 Circle Park Drive.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Anyone out there want to comment on this? Kathy?
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendo.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. That was the easiest motion
You've
I've ever
done a
been
great
through.
job up here convincing us. Appreciate it. Okay, business from the audience, Mr. Dean. I think
He
he
left.
Left.
Well, pass that to Kathy, that's a no-go.
No, the auxiliary building was, that one.
Yeah, he didn't put anything on.
No.
City attorney business?
Nothing further, sir.
We have the assistant city administrator, and she's gonna talk to us on 13A.
Good evening. This agenda item is concerning the notice of award for the private provider for building official role services. Council has directed staff to advertise for a building official, to prepare an RFQ for a private provider at the same time, and also to form a committee. There were no qualified applicants for the building official position, and we received one response from Bayhead Consulting Group Incorporated for the private provider services. The committee met on March 18th, yesterday, and according to their minutes that are attached, recommends to council to enter into a contract with Bayhead Consulting effective April 1st with the attached contracted services and terms, and asking for the city attorney to draw up the contract based off of the RFQ document, the submission, and the terms that were provided by the committee.
Anyone got any comments or?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I've worked with 20 different building departments throughout the state of Florida.
Can you come up and talk to us? We forgot who you are.
Mark Wilson again. I've been a contractor for 25 years, a real estate broker for 30. I've worked with a lot of these building departments. They bring in these little companies and they take over. Each one is different. They all have different forms. And you're looking at a minimum wage employee that doesn't care. It's the most difficult thing a contractor can go through. I'm not a paralegal, I'm a contractor. It's permits down South Florida are 80 pages because of this. Here, you can get a permit in 5 or 6 pages. If these people take over and we give them all the building department work, it is going to be a mess. It's no more personalized. You can't walk in and say, "Hi, how you doing?" and you know that person. It changes daily.
So to address those concerns, nothing will change here. Our current building official is going private, and he was the only response to the RFQ. He'll be the same people doing the permitting.
It will?
And he'll just be able to expand with his own staff to
That's
to
great.
facilitate
And
our
he-
increased demand.
He will also have his office here.
So he's going private then?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, but
As long as we keep the same
basically, nothing changes except he's private.
leadership, yeah.
He's no longer an employee of the city.
Right, and the committee looked and looking for person to fill that position. It took us forever to find him.
Yeah, I
You know,
remember.
so they're like hen's teeth out there, and the committee looked at it. We
As
went
long as it's
over
not an
it.
outside group coming in. As long as it, he stays, that's perfect.
No, he's staying.
And
Okay,
one
great.
thing I want to add to this, him going private gives us an advantage in that he can basically qualify his staff
Right.
to expand.
Right.
And so that, I think he did 60 inspections yesterday, Greg. 68. We're growing and we need to be able to grow. And this allows the city to do it much easier than trying to build out an entire building department.
Right, and it affords us to, like he just said, he'll have staff under him that can inspect, and he just has to approve it, so nothing actually, it could speed us up with permitting. So, just need a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the committee recommendation and instruct the city attorney to prepare a contract for private provider services and authorize council president to sign the contract.
Second.
Anyone else, comments? Kathy?
Bishop.
Yes.
Haver.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. This is one we've been waiting on.
I know, y'all wait all night for me.
And we have, so go
Council,
for it.
council needs to approve the paying of the bills, please.
So- Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the paying of the bills, and I think everybody wants us to, especially the people that work here, so they can continue on. So, hold the board.
Bishop.
Yes.
Haver.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.